when I go and check out a band's new album, I'm usually going back and listening to past records to kind of get a little bit of perspective on it, right? Like, okay, how do I compare it to, say, any of the records that came out, like Kingdom of the Night 2, Black Edition, or, maybe Back to the Kingdom, or, whatever, the Big Thrill, right? And, I'll be honest, this is probably, if I went back in your catalog, I'd probably have this in the top 5. I mean, it really is.
The Virus of a Modern Time release?
No, this one.
Coming home. Okay. I thought, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it's and it's interesting. Well, it's interesting because I go and listen to this and I heard something different from, like we discussed before, I heard something different than, from each aspect or each era of the band. I mean, each era of the band seems to be different. You had the EMI era, you had kind of like what I would consider the comeback era with, Back to the Kingdom. And then you had that era like in the middle, I don't know, mid 2000s, late 2000s, where, the band kind of went down more of a like power metal, probably power metal route. Yeah.
Because we got this girl in the band, Okay.
Yeah, that was correct. Yeah. And it's always interesting to look back at the collection of the stuff that you've done and just how different each era of this band was. And it's I've always, and the reason I bring that up, I've always wondered why, and power metal in America, for example, really, unfortunately, never really caught on. But I always wondered why you guys never really caught on and had a bigger fan base over here.
That's exactly the problem, because we got this wide range of different styles in our music, and you don't get it. That's a problem. We are not a delivery service for fans. We are trying to make our own music in our special periods of time.
Sure.
And what I really love, and what the challenge is, that we try to develop a little bit and experiment a lot of things, and playing with the songwriting, playing with a female voice, for example, and that's what makes Axxis for me very interesting. But for the people, it's sometimes a problem. If you compare with for example, with Powerwolf or these kind of bands, they are doing their stuff very focused. Everything is, I think, very focused, and the people can expect that they get the same sound, the same songs again and again and again. Maybe with a little bit different things around it, but
sure.
It's a kind of delivery service for the fans. We've never been this. We always try to making our own music, and that makes Axxis. That's the main reason why we survived 35 years, because it's very interesting for us as musicians to develop us a little bit, or to experiment some things, and to work with music, and that's, on one hand it's an advantage for us as musicians. On the other hand, it's bad for the business, for journalists or whatever, to get this band in a kind of, I don't know, direction. That's the problem.
Yeah.
Well, only the voice is always the same. It's combining everything.
Well, for me, that's the thing. For me, that's why I've liked the band over the years, right? Because of this kind of diversity that you have. You're not putting out the same record all the time. That's actually, and I'll be honest with you, that is actually why I've liked the band for all this time.
Yeah, but that is only a very small percent of people, That's a very, I think the main amount of fans want to get the same again and again and again, because they expect something from the band, and that's a problem. We don't deliver this. We are changing something, some sounds, some songwriting stuff. That's a problem. For example, we are going out with 3 singles for Coming Home. The Blackest Vision, Coming Home, was the second single with a video, and now Moonlight Bay. That's it. I say the singles, for me, a single is a song that is working for a lot of people. You can say it's a commercial thing or whatever, but it's a very melodic, and the power metal fans hate these songs. They love more Lord of Darkness, Legends of Fantasia, and they say, what the fuck are you doing right now with this fucking song? Too much melodic lines, whatever. Yeah, we say, but that's a songwriting. Try to find a good melodic line. That's not easy. A fucking great melodic line, it's the heaviest way in writing songwriting. If I combine a million complicated parts in a row, that's easy. You just have to train it and it works. But to get or to invent a good melodic line, even if it's easy, that's very, very difficult. And that's what the people don't get. They just listen to it and they, oh, too much melodic things, and that's it.
See,
the basic band, the main bands are saying, oh, that's great songs, we can sing along with it, it's great and we're wonderful and we got emotions while we're listening to the songs and whatever. This is a problem with Axxis.
See, my thing was I've always expected the unexpected.
Okay.
That's pretty
great.
much
That's a good point
pretty much and that's pretty much what again, that's why I've always liked the band. I've always expected the unexpected. Every album is a lot different, you know, in its own right. And that was probably, you know, that's what interested me in the band. I'll never forget, and I'll tell you the story. The first album that I had probably heard by you guys.
Sorry, who's my office time? Some people are calling here right with the phone. Sorry.
No, it's okay.
It's not disturbing you. Okay. Yeah.
But for me, you know, the first album that I remember listening to and actually hearing was the second one, the Axxis 2.
Okay.
And then I ended up getting, I believe, I'm trying to remember what the second album was. It wasn't, you know, I'm trying.
It wasn't Kingdom of the Night?
It was not Kingdom of the Night. No.
Okay.
Because this was like
interesting,
late 90s. So I would probably say, you know, I probably would say Voodoo Vibes probably would have been the second one. But then I remember getting back. I remember the radio show. I remember getting a copy of Back to the Kingdom after that. And then I was like, Eyes of Darkness, those two albums. And then when I heard those two albums, those were the albums that I really got me into the band, where I was like, man, these guys
really cool.
I went and I know that sounds crazy, but you know, understand that in the US, you know, especially back in those days, there was no streaming, there was no you didn't really have, I mean, there was no high-speed internet yet. I mean, it just became a thing. So the only way to really hear a band like yourself was to take a chance. Well, I've heard of this band, let me check them out and buy a couple CDs and then really say, hey, whether you like them or not. But I remember somebody from Germany sent me Back to the Kingdom and Eyes of Darkness. Those are the two albums. And then once I heard those albums, I was like, okay, I really like this band quite a bit. And then I started going back and exploring the back catalog, like the Big Thrill, the debut album, you know, all those records. So that's kind of my story of really getting into the band. But I think when you hit the album Back to the Kingdom in 2000, I mean, there was something musically that just changed for the better. And I thought the band ever since then has been pretty consistent as far as the quality of the albums per se.
That's a cool story. That's great. Interesting. Because Back to the Kingdom was our first production that we did by our own, that we recorded by ourselves in our own studio. Yeah. And there was the beginning of our experiences in sound recording and whatever. And we built up our Soundwork studio in Germany, and that it's the first step into our independency of the business, you know. And very interesting to hear your story, how you get into this band. That's interesting. Because usually everybody started with Kingdom of the Night, and everybody was disappointed with the Axxis 2 because they expect Kingdom of the Night, the same again. But we did another sound, a little more keyboards in it and whatever, and a reggae song like Touch the Rainbow, the people were disappointed, but now it's one of the most famous songs in the world for us, you know. Very interesting. Or Save Me, everybody said, how can they sing Save Me the whole time? It's all boring, but I do it today. Save Me is one of the biggest songs when we play it live. And it's very interesting how these everybody's getting another point of view on this band. That's very interesting for me.